Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the House of Bricks Live. I'm absolutely loving having the podcast back up and running, doing these live events, featuring great people. We all know that the climb to the top is never a straight line. It's through that adversity that we build resilience, and that resilience helps us produce the outcomes as long as we stay the course. But if you've been following me on Instagram, LinkedIn Live, been talking a lot about what the truck. We donated a vehicle, a Raptor, to a veteran. And it's not just a vehicle, it's going to be the vehicle to raise awareness and really help veterans transition from the battlefield to the boardroom. And today, I'm very honored to have a special guest, Travis McVey. He's a Marine Corps veteran, author, and founder of Heroes Vodka. So Travis took a deep personal loss, the death of two Marine brothers, one killed in Afghanistan, the other in the line of duty as an Indiana State Trooper, and it turned it into a mission to honor veterans and first responders with every bottle that's sold. So Heroes Vodka isn't just an award-winning American-made spirit; it's a tribute born from heartbreak and built on purpose. And I smile a little bit when I say that because we all face adversity in life, but it's through those challenges that we're able to turn those obstacles into stepping stones. So Travis, welcome to the House of Bricks Live.
Hey, thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. And, it's great timing for us to get connected. As I was talking a little bit about the Ford Raptor that we donated to a veteran. We're also raising awareness for law enforcement individuals.
That's awesome.
Veterans, at least you're fighting for your country, right? But as a police officer, you're just, typically a nuisance to most people. They don't look at it.
It's a very tough job, especially nowadays.
It sure is. So, but anyway, love to, have you tell us a little bit about you and your story. I touched on it briefly, but, introduce yourself and tell us how you got here.
Like I said, I'm Travis McVey, Marine Corps veteran. Before I joined the Marine Corps, I joined the Army Reserves at the age of 16. I grew up in a small town in Indiana. My parents got divorced probably when I was about 14, and that affected me quite a deal. I was a star athlete before that, made great grades, but that divorce just took a huge toll on me. My mom moved to Nashville, Tennessee. My dad stayed in Indiana, and I moved with my mom for a little while, but quite didn't take. And I went back to my dad, but I just started hanging out with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, and my grades started to slide. And I needed some discipline in my life. My brother was in the Marine Corps. He's 5 years older than me. So I said, I'll join the Army. I'm too young to join the Marine Corps. They had a split program. So I did that, went to basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky at 16 years of age, came back, finished my senior year of high school, went to AIT in Fort Jackson. But I came back to that same small town, the same environment. I needed a different environment, a little bit more discipline. And my brother was a Marine, and it seemed like he always got a little bit of favoritism from my dad for that. For some reason, I love both branches, proud of both being a soldier and a Marine. But Marine Corps is a little different for me. The Army was more of a mind game at 16, but the Marine Corps is more of that discipline and that physical fitness. But during that time, I was very honored to be selected as a Marine Guard for President Bush Sr., the 41st President of the United States. And that's really when my life started to change, to be in that we call the fish bubble there for about 2.5 years, learning silent drill, ceremonial drill, doing all the aspects that go, being a Camp David at the Pentagon. That's where I met my two best friends that inspired my brand. And that was Thomas Rabjohn. He was my platoon sergeant, and my other friend, my name's, I'm having like a moment here, but Richard Gaston. He was my first buddy. He was an Indiana State Trooper. That's all he talked about, was being a state trooper. And he got killed in the line of duty shortly after he got out of the Marine Corps. And that kind of touched me in a way, and I kind of carried that weight for a while, but then started going through a divorce. And during that time, a little bit later, my friend was killed in Afghanistan, and Thomas was, and that just took a big toll on me. And I was just sitting in a bar thinking what I could do to serve again. And that's when I had this revelation of starting my own company, my own veteran-owned brand, to give back and honor. Because, we've been raising our glasses to our warriors for centuries. It's about time we had our own brand. So I started going through that process.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot there, right? Going through a divorce, I went through that as a kid. I mean, and then I didn't go in the military, but ended up going to a Catholic high school. So, it kind of became the environment where it was cool to do good in school, be a good athlete. So
Yeah.
that change in environment can really propel you. Now, starting your own company, right? People think it's this, aha moment, but what gave you the idea to start the vodka company, and then what challenges did you face out of the gate?
Well, I got out of the Marine Corps at a different time. It's during peacetime. So I got out of active duty in 93, then I stayed in the reserves until 96. So the transition was a lot different for me, but there weren't as many programs out there. And also, I didn't start my company about 2009. I had what I call the golden handcuffs. I had a really good job at Bridgestone Firestone, as a tire builder and a quality assurance engineer. So I had great benefits, great pay. But then I just never had the passion for it. Then when me and my wife split up, my son was very young. And I just know I needed to do something different with my life, to make that promise I made to my friends, to honor them, to honor that spirit of service and sacrifice, and that I had a lot of, I'll call it haters, or people that said, "You were stupid, you'll never be able to do this." I'm talking about starting a vodka company, going up against Grey Goose and Smirnoff and all these great companies. But, you never tell a Marine he can't do something. He's going to try to die doing it. And, my buddies gave their life for this country, and so many people have. The least I could do is try to start a business to honor that service and sacrifice that makes the American dream possible. And luckily, I was very naive. Knowing what I know now, I've been even a tougher decision to make, to give all that up to, because I sold my car, basically sold my house, moved in with my buddy, bought a Honda Accord, had 350,000 miles on it, no air, driving at 89 miles back and forth, 160-mile round trip. Talking to people, and finally my business attorney told me to talk to a person named Robert Lippman, which has state permit #1 in Tennessee for distribution. And there's the family that helped actually loan the money to start the Jack Daniels brand back in 1939, I believe it was, to the Hap-Motlow family. So I called him up. All they could do is say no, right?
Right.
So I called him up and actually got him on the phone late at night. His secretary wasn't there, and he said, "Hey," he said, "I've got 150 vodkas in my warehouse, but since you're a veteran, I'll give you 20 minutes. So I had to be prepared for that 20 minutes, and I was prepared. I had all my PowerPoint put together. I had my licensing. I had my permits and all that stuff ready to go. And that's what made that life. My passion, though, is what sold it, not my experience, because he asked me what experience I've had. I said, basically, the Marine Corps found it in a bar. That's the only connection I've got with this, and I like vodka a little bit, but there's a whole reason I chose vodka too, which we can go into a little bit later. That's more of a business decision as well. But that's kind of where the start came from, going through all those obstacles and going through the Small Business Administration, getting a small $80,000 loan to start, putting all that up. And luckily, the first person I called, though, seeing my passion and wanted to invest in me.
Yeah, that's really what entrepreneurship is all about, right? Like, everyone's got an idea,
Right.
Everyone's got something they think they want to do, but if they don't have the passion, when people come to me with a business idea, even if I like it, I try to talk them out of it. to see if they're really sold on it. Because if you can't take, that first no, like you might as well just pack it in. So, no, you didn't have any experience in vodka or starting a business. It was just you.
I was straight from the Marine Corps. I worked at UPS for a little bit in between the Army and the Marine Corps as a documented auditor. And then I got out of Bridgestone, finished my degree in business. I had a degree in business, but I just did quality assurance and build tires. I never was a salesman or anything like that. And I didn't want to be a salesman. I don't like being called a salesman. I'm more of a storyteller. I want you to connect with my brand. If it doesn't make sense for you, I don't want you to buy it. Or if you have a problem with alcohol, I don't want you to buy it. We want a positive change in our community is what this product is all about.
Well, you bring up the alcohol piece, not just veterans, but a lot of people struggle with drinking, but specifically like in the veteran space, right? There's, two different sides to that coin. Have you faced any pushback, like tying veterans and alcohol, or as a
I did it first. I was on NBC. I did an article in there, and a lady made a very bad comment. I was trying to make money off the blood off my dead friends or something to that effect. And luckily, a lot of people in the community came up and stepped up for me and talked to me, pled my case for me. Like I said, if you have a problem with alcohol, I don't want you to buy my product, period. And it gives me a soapbox to talk about alcohol and accountability. That's one thing that the service doesn't do a good job in. They teach you how to go to war. They teach you how to do all these things, but they don't teach you how to be responsible with alcohol. It's just, it's given.
Mm-hmm.
Our leaders need to get out there in the field and be with the Marines, with their soldiers, to kind of see this and teach that responsibility more, I believe, which we tried to do also as well. I have a lot of friends that are recovering alcoholics, and they're my favorite worst customers, I call them. So my brother Andrew Farr is a chaplain now. He was in 3-8, was in Afghanistan and Iraq, was a Purple Heart, and alcohol, was not for him. It's something he could not do, and he took the responsibility, and now he goes around and talks to people that may have that addiction. But addiction is like anything else. A lot of people are addicted to different things, but you should never drink alcohol when you're very angry. There's certain times that you should drink. It's like certain times you should talk to your wife or your husband. There's certain times that you shouldn't. Right. If I'm in the middle of the Super Bowl, I don't expect my wife or my girlfriend to have a deep, meaning conversation at that time, And if I'm angry or pissed off, alcohol is not the answer. That's one of the things we say. Some people drink to forget. We drink to remember. I want to remember those good times, and do it responsibly. Keep what you earn is what the Marine Corps talks about.
Yeah, and it's so funny when we did this What the Truck thing, donated a Raptor, like everyone's got an opinion. It's like, well, why'd you give a Raptor? Why didn't you? It's like we're trying to make an impact and make a difference, right? People are going to drink. You have a story behind yours. One of the things that we talk about a lot in the House of Bricks community and on these live events is our test, fail, learn, grow flywheel, right? You're just testing, you're failing, you're learning, you're growing.
Right.
What was something that caught you by surprise, maybe some big idea that you tested that failed and maybe propelled growth later on?
Well, at first we tried to expand too quickly. I'm all excited. This is, how can people turn down? I love vodka. It's veteran owned, American made, and every bottle gives back, and it's award winning. But, I learned very quickly, I'm a very small fish in a very, very big ocean. And, they're war chest, and they don't play fair at either. There's a 3-tier system. You have to learn all these different laws and regulations, what you can and cannot say. So it's very, very challenging for that, especially when your budgets are small, like mine is. I don't have a big workforce out there that's solely concentrated on Heroes Vodka. I work with the distributors, but they're also selling Tito's and Grey Goose and all the other different alcohol brands out there. So it was been best for me to grow in Tennessee, because if you can do it in your backyard, you can sell it anywhere. So we've pulled back a little bit, especially after the pandemic. I had some very big challenges with the supply chain then, which a lot of people did. People don't realize how much the world changed during the pandemic with supply chains and different companies getting bought out. In the distribution of the alcohol business, there's not very many small distributors left. So it's better if I could connect with those people and they take a personal interest in my story, because I don't have the funds to pay them all these bonuses like a lot of these companies do, But I'd say if you're loyal to us when we're small, imagine what we can do when we're big. I mean, take, for example, Tito's is worth $4 billion. Just think what Heroes Vodka could do with that volume. It'd be amazing, the communities and the impact that we would have. And that's my goal, is to be the #1 selling vodka in America. We want to do that. And I need everyone's help. If you enjoy a great American vodka, why not choose Heroes?
I'm still waiting on my bottle. Where is it?
I got your buddy one there. I got to get you one too as well.
He's in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'll show you the new bottle is right here. And these aren't in the stores yet. We went from, this is the old packaging right here, which that's still in the store a little bit. And that's another challenge is, coming out with a new bottle, you got to get rid of your old inventory. So we're very close to that. So these aren't even in the stores yet. So I have, this is a 750 that we did for the stores. The first bottle has a picture of me on it, and you scan that QR code and it has me telling the story. And we're doing a big contest right now called the Legacy Project from back in Memorial Day until August 4th. If you go to our website and enter the Legacy Project, you can nominate your own hero. And then if they're selected, they get to choose the organization that we give back to next year.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
And this is our half-gallon bottle, which we went back to glass in this. So if you look at it real closely, there's like a little picture of me by Marine One back there just a little bit when I was like 20 years old, I think.
So, and we'll do this a couple times throughout the show, but if people do want to buy your vodka, can they order it online? Do they have to go in a store?
They have to go in a store. There's some places you can order online. It's just very expensive with shipping, and there's a lot of laws and regulations, but I see brands doing it all the time. But I try to go strictly by the law, by the book, because distributors don't like you doing that because you bypass them. Has to go through a distributor, and plus people drinking underage. It's just another layer. It's very hard to control that. So the best bet's go to stores or keep asking for it in your liquor stores and your bars, because that's what helps us grow to much of demand for it. But we're very heavily located in Tennessee, throughout Tennessee, Ohio, Georgia, and Florida is the key states we're concentrated in. Michigan, we're also available in Michigan. Just Tennessee is kind of our backyard where we're really known for. We're in some of the most award-winning restaurants down in downtown Nashville and places like that.
So getting into, and I haven't been in the liquor business, but something very similar. I had a supplement company, right? And you can only communicate so much on a bottle to like educate the consumer. And like you said, the big companies don't fight fair. Like you got supplement companies like GNC and others, no offense, GNC, but they sell just a bunch of crap in a bottle, no science to back it up, but people want that, lose weight quick mentality.
Right.
How do you communicate your message to really educate the consumer on why your vodka is different other than the mission itself?
Just a lot of shoe leather and doing tasting events, going to stores, doing tasting events. I'm also wanting to start doing a cocktail show on video. I just don't like being on camera a lot, but I have a story to tell. I like to, it's called Spirits Worth Sharing, where I tell a positive story and pair it with a cocktail is something I got in plans to do. But mostly it's going out doing bottle signings and word of mouth and talking to people, coming on podcasts like yours and like that, and just keep building that momentum, because you never know when it's going to hit. It just happens. And sometimes, like in Nashville, all the music artists, they call you an overnight 10-year success. We've been at this about close to 14 years now. We still have a lot of room for growth and a lot of room for expansion. So we just need the veteran community, the first responder community, and all those that support American-made products to start. When you go into a store, to think about your purchase, that's the hardest thing to change people's mind. Is usually it takes 5 touches of something before you change your mind about buying something. Because you go to a liquor store, the vodka aisle is just massive. So we did all these studies about the color of your label and all this stuff. That's why we changed our label and different things like that too. And now you can scan the bottle and get the story from right there. So that's another thing that we try to do. And just in Nashville, we go out and I just tell my story to people. Hopefully they'll put us on a menu with a little blurb about that. So that really helps too as well.
So what really, I'm now on my 7th startup. I've been doing this for almost 30 years now. There's never really a good time to start a business, but
no,
you're going through a divorce, you're grieving 2 friends. Like, what really pushed you to make this jump into the vodka?
That was really my outlet, my mission. Like there's people that's in the service and stuff like that. You lose that mission, you lose that sense of belonging when you get out. And then I just was lost. My best friend, that's what my wife was, my best friend. It just so happened we didn't make a very good married couple. We're very good friends now. We have a great 23-year-old son who's done very good in school, has his master's degree, works at the Clinton Presidential Library in Little Rock now. And but you just have to keep pushing through. It's just like people. And the best thing, I always saw my friends in the background. I always saw Tommy or Richard, and sometimes I'll think about them and cry. And sometimes I'll think about them and smile and laugh, because we had a few drinks together. We had a few parties together. And I like to think they're proud of me. I think they would be, because I continue to keep their memory alive. That's what it's about. You keep talking about your friends. And that's another thing this brand has in common. When I go talk to people, they tell me about their grandfather or their cousin or their wife or their boyfriend or their cousin or just somebody they knew that served or was a first responder, so those stories mean a lot to people. And to me, that's what having a glass of vodka or a bourbon is. You sit around with your friends and you reminisce about good times and old times, sometimes sad times, but we celebrate life and loss.
Yeah. I keep this picture on my desk. It goes everywhere with me, but my grandfather, he was in World War II, huge impact in my life. And, I've always wanted to honor veterans, but really never had a platform or a way to do it. I had a, mortgage lead company, healthcare, mobile tech, but now with the House of Bricks community, our mission is exactly that. What you just shared is kind of being that tribe for veterans when they leave, because you're in the service, you're being told what to do, be Hero 600, be Hero 700.
Right.
Then you get out, it's like, wait a minute, no one's telling me what to do. And
Yeah.
that can, get you into a dark place pretty quickly without
Definitely.
having that community, that tribe. So what I really like what you said too is, there's meaning behind the vodka. There's a story. Everyone's got a story to tell. Like you said, you don't want to be a salesman.
Right.
The best entrepreneurs can tell stories, and people want to connect with a brand, with a mission. Outside of, just doing podcasts, like how can people get behind the Heroes Vodka mission?
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and share our content with people. Just keep doing that. That's the biggest way you can help us. Or if you have connections, people that own restaurants or bars or stores, or influential people that's in the big leagues of some of the biggest chain stores there is, we'd love to be in those. We just got the Marine Corps bases. They have our half-gallon bottles. They're the first ones to get those. So we still got to go through the Army Air Force exchange and things like that. But it's just, people want a sense of belonging. That's one thing we see every day. It seems like there's so much division in the world. I'm not, just to make any sense, most people I talk to, we have so much more in common than we have that we don't, so that's one thing. I try to just tell my story, be open, listen. That's the biggest thing you can do in business is listen. I tell my story, but also listen to other people and see what their needs are and what they like about the product and the brand. So that's kind of what I try to go back to with some of our content and share that.
So what you just said is really important in terms of actually listening to other people. It's one of the things I find most entrepreneurs don't do is listen and learn from others.
Right.
If there's a veteran out there now that kind of has this business idea, like what is the first step that you took? What went wrong and what did you learn from it?
Mm-hmm. The first step of starting a business with this was, it's been such a long time ago, just learning the legalities of it. I knew there's so much that goes into starting a vodka company. There's the legalities of it, learning the process of distilling, getting a distiller's permit, getting a seller's permit, and going through all that. I don't know if you make your own luck by working your butt off, but I had a lot of good luck too by just reaching out and just being myself and being honest with people. Say, look, I don't understand this. Can you help me with this? And that's when the first bottles was made up. My first distillery was in Colorado. There had a gentleman had his own distillery, so he made the first batches that I took to Mr. Lippman, and Lippman Brothers already had the label and everything ready to go. But that's when he said, I think we can do this better. I think I can do this cheaper. And that's when he sent off the bottles to Buffalo Trace, and they came up with a formula, which now I know how much vodka costs to be made. So it blows my mind, some of these prices that people charge. But to me, it's just working and studying all the time and creating that luck by asking questions all the time about first what I was going to do to make sure it was the right. Because I spent 2 years of research and almost 3 years in research and development. I went to the Small Business Administration, had a counselor there that was an old Korean War veteran. We talked about bottled water at first. We talked about whiskey at first, but then we talked about vodka. I talked about vodka because vodka, you can make it today and sell it tomorrow. You don't have to age it like you do bourbon and whiskey. Mm-hmm. That's why bourbon is so much more expensive a lot of times, because of the aging process. And it's also gender neutral. Men and women both drink vodka all the time. Women are starting to drink more bourbon now, but that's not always been so. And also it's people drink in the summertime and the wintertime. So it had all those things going for it. And it outsells all the other spirits combined. And that's what made another thing. And then I studied the story of Sidney Frank, the first one to sell, Grey Goose for $2.5 billion. That was unheard of then. But his whole ideal was the American people are so pretentious, they'll pay $15 more for a bottle of vodka made in France with a fancy bottle. And he was right. He took it all the way to the bank. But a lot of people don't realize he was already in the business, already a multimillionaire. He had the distribution rights for Jägermeister on the East Coast. On the West Coast, the guy had a falling out, so he ended up getting the whole country. He came out with the Jägerette girls, the shot girls. So when you bought a case of Jägermeister, they would get a bottle of Grey Goose of this prestigious vodka, and that's what got that going. But they also he had enough money to have a front page ad in the New York Times, when he won a medal about the most award-winning vodka or whatever, and that was, it was off to the races after that.
Well, I don't know anything about the business, but I'm assuming there was some heavy upfront startup costs? I mean,
Yeah, and that's where I got very lucky again there with my business partner, my business attorney. I checked out one of the best business attorneys that specializes in alcohol here in Nashville, Tennessee, that knows all the players and everything. I met him through another friend at a veteran event that knew him. So that veteran network really helps to connect those dots. So if you got bunker labs and things like that, there's a big connection. That fraternity is very, very big. So he told me about Robert Lippman, and that's when I made the call. And Robert, like I said, he distributes Jack Daniels, Grey Goose, Tito's, Smirnoff, Bacardi. About every bottle of alcohol that comes through Tennessee goes through his distributorship. He has a hand in that. So I knew he was the expert that I needed. I knew he'd be the investor that I needed. So luckily in that first call that I spent 2.5 years of getting ready for, when I made it, I was ready. And I went to his office, I put everything on the line there, and he brought in his vice president, which was a Vietnam veteran, to get his take with it. And that's kind of what sealed the deal, is that moment right there. And he put up the starting cost and all that stuff for it, except for the original $100,000.
Wow. Yeah. And you say it's luck, but we talk about it all the time. It's increasing your luck surface area, right? The more times you're visible, the more people can see you, the more conversations you have. And, that's been kind of the secret to my success, is just meeting the right person at the right time in the right place for the right reason. And, the sky can be the limit. So you seem to be in, a pretty good spot now. Looking back, outside of the revenue that you've generated, what's the most meaningful thing that you think you've accomplished with Heroes Vodka?
Well, so far, being a small brand, we've already given back over $250,000 in cash, not counting the signed bottles and the time I go around speaking at certain events, seeing that impact, because we also work with Team RWB, with Mike Irwin, Lieutenant Colonel, teaches at West Point, I still believe, but he started Team RWB because that gets people out of the house. That's the biggest contributor to suicide, and veterans taking it downhill is isolation and letting themselves go. So that's kind of what they're all about. They have chapters in about every state in the nation. I encourage people to look them up, be part of that. They have events all over the place to get you out. We also give back to the Night Stalkers Association, which, is kind of the elite special forces aviators, and give back to their families for scholarships for the fallen's children, which is so impactful. And then the Legion Fund, which is a local from the Green Berets here close to Nashville. We also help out with some of their events and some of the things that they do. But it's knowing that we're making an impact in that community and knowing the growth that can happen. Like I said, just imagine, as we're the size of some of these other brands like Tito's and Grey Goose and Smirnoff, what we could do. I mean, we could do a lot, but we're still doing a lot with a little, but that's what the Marine Corps teaches you to do. We don't have the best equipment or the best budget, but we try our very best to accomplish the mission.
So I'm going to ask you this as objectively as possible. What makes your vodka better than Tito's or Grey Goose? Or,
well, as you say, every vodka is about the same or close to the same once you get to a certain level. I think what makes ours better is our story and our price. Because, price isn't everything, but price is a big thing, because I had a hard time of making our price point, because I didn't want to charge it too small, because then people think it's not that good. If you charge it too high, then you price people out of your customers. So it's kind of the chicken before the egg. So we're kind of that price point right around Smirnoff, just below Tito's. But you have an award-winning vodka, it's just as good. It's won 7 gold medals, 6 silver. And like I say, I know how much vodka costs to be made, and you're going to love the vodka if you try it. You're going to love the story. You're going to try it once. We knew that. But after that one time, you really got to like it. So that's to put that name on the bottle, too. It has to be good.
Yeah, I think you're underpriced. Maybe mark it up above Tito's, in between Grey Goose and
I think I like where we're at, because like I say, if you knew how much it cost, you'd be like, okay, that's pretty good. But that hurts us a little bit on our market. I got to do better marketing. So, we're always trying to create ideals to do that. That's why I want to do the spirits worth sharing. I think would be a good idea. I'm just not a very good bartender, so I'm looking at some creators to partner with, maybe on that show, and to do something like that.
So what's kind of, where do you see this a couple of years from now? What's your vision for are you going to get in? Are you just going to stay in vodka? Are you getting into other
I'm just going to stay in vodka. Vodka's enough. You do one thing and do it well. So that's why we've always, I'm not going to do flavors or anything. Like, look at Tito's. He only has one thing. And so I think that's the best way to keep my time is focused on that.
What's been the most difficult part of the journey for you?
Patience.
Yeah.
Very patient. So that's very, very hard. And sometimes, when you have business partners, you don't always see eye to eye. So it's always hard sometimes to have that balance, which my business partner has been very good to me. But, it's very hard sometimes when you have a great idea, you think, and then they want you at Mach 1, but you're at Mach 3. But he's been very good at keeping me, kind of calm sometimes, because as entrepreneurs, like you said, we don't listen sometimes. We see squirrel, light, that, we need someone to calm us down and, look at everything in perspective.
So what's next for you? What's the most exciting thing coming down the pipe in the next 12 months?
Making a big impact, like I say, in Florida, growing our base here in Tennessee, to grow Michigan more in Ohio. That's where I want to focus at, in Georgia. Texas, we're available there, but it's very hard. We're only in a few places there. But if you're in Texas, so many veterans there, please keep asking for it, because they can get it.
And you touched a little bit on the legacy project, but can you drill into that and where people can get involved in that mission?
Yeah, you go to heroesvodka.com. You spell heroes with the 2 E's. A lot of people forget that's HEROES vodka.com. And it has a very prominent thing. This is the legacy project. And you click on that, it'll tell you all the rules and everything you have to enter. So we'd love to hear your story.
And do they have to be a veteran?
They have to be alive and be 21, yes.
What's that?
They have to be a veteran. They can be a veteran, a first responder, a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, just someone that's making a big impact in their community, that's making the world a better place.
Okay.
Because after all, that's what a hero is to me, someone that's making the world a better place, that's, service and sacrifice. You don't always have to do that in a uniform either. You can do that. And I hope that's kind of what I'm doing now. My mission, is to honor service and sacrifice. So there's so many different ways that you can do it.
Yeah, well, we'll for sure get behind it in whatever way we can with the House of Bricks, with our community. We have a lot of veterans,
Appreciate
a lot of
that.
business people. Are you in the process of raising capital, or do you have a vision for that, or you're just going to bootstrap?
Well, with Bootstrap right now with Robert, like I said, it's my only business partner right now. When we're investors, we looked at that a little while back, but right now after the pandemic, we kind of had to change the label. So we're going to get the label more established before we think about that more.
Okay. And before we wrap up, so I know you joined the Army Reserve at 16. You're a poker player, and you sat with Pete Rose.
Oh yeah. When I was, we did a party in New York City there's actually an American Legion there, and they had a casino night. It was taking money up, Nine Line Apparel, 9 Line project that Tyler Merritt started. They were doing a party up there, and I had met Burt Young, the actor that played Polly in the Rocky movies. Also played a bunch of other movies on MASH. Great guy, but he was a Marine and a boxer. And I ran into him in this restaurant in Long Island. A guy on the restaurant introduced me to him, and I took a picture with my bottle and my thing, and I asked him, "Would you like to come to our event tonight?" He said, "Yeah, if you send me a car." So I had to call up my business partner and say, "Can we put in a budget to get a car for Burt Young?" And he approved it. So we get there. Then Pete Rose is there as part of the event, signing the little bats and everything. So I got to meet him. And then they started playing cards and everything. So it's just funny to sit there and play cards with 2 gentlemen like that. And Floberg, I forget, Medal of Honor recipient. I can't remember his exact name, but everybody calls him Floberg. He was there. And so everybody loved Burt Young more than Pete Rose, I believe. But it was a fun event. We raised a lot of money.
Pete Rose is a competitor. He's an intense
dude. Yeah. I can tell he's a little bit bitter, from everything he'd went through. I can only imagine what he's had to go through in his life to be the greatest player of all time, and to make one or so little mistake, and then, that changes your entire life. And that's one thing that's very important to understand too with drinking. That one moment can change your entire life to get behind that car or anything, so just always be responsible with your actions, even when no one's looking, try to do what's right.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. Alcohol and anger don't mix very well together.
No, not at all.
When a lot of people will turn to that. But listen, there's, positives and negatives with everything. Like you said, great to sit down, share a story, have a drink, with some friends, family members, whatever. So, I met Pete Rose what was it, like 2002, when I started my first business in South Florida. He had a restaurant in Boca, Pete Rose's sports bar or whatever, but I met him a couple times. He's an intense dude. Like there's no off switch.
I didn't see many smiles out of him like I did Bert,
Oh, none. Well, great. Thank you for, joining today. Again, just if people want to get connected with you, what's your website, what's your social media, and you have my word from the House of Bricks. We'll definitely do whatever we can to, help promote your story, your message, and your business.
Well, thank you, Adam. Appreciate what you guys do too.
So what's your website again?
www.heroesvodka.com. And also, like I say, follow us on Instagram. We're more active on Instagram and also Facebook. So that's about two. I don't do TikTok, or I do LinkedIn a little bit, but not as much. But you can also connect with me there too as well.
Okay. Well, any closing thoughts for our audience, listeners out there?
Now, like I say, if you enjoy a great American vodka, give the Heroes a try and share our story with other people.
Yeah, I've got a couple buddies here in Michigan that own restaurants, so I'll definitely get you connected with them. Some pretty big restaurants here in the Birmingham area.
Yeah, we're the House of Vodka of a lot of great restaurants because of our price point to the because what we did here, this is the bottle that goes in the restaurants. As you'll notice, there's no picture of me or all that. That's why we can keep our price point for the bars and still be competitive, and them to offer a great vodka, because they're charging $10 to $12 for a bottle of vodka. I mean, for just one drink.
Yeah.
In the restaurants and stuff now, so it's kind of crazy.
I was just in Miami. I think I paid $21 for a drink.
Oh yeah, there's some places like that too. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, listen, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, being transparent. Any veterans out there that may be starting their own business, we've heard it from you today. Every week I share, it's filled with obstacles, but you can turn those obstacles into stepping stones. Being around the right people, being connected to a community. But want to thank you again for joining us live, and we'll get the word out to as many people as possible.
I appreciate it, Adam. Cheers.
Right. Cheers. I got my coffee, but there you go.
That'll work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.